What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the City Life Project YouTube channel for yet another picks, preview, and predictions video for UFC 310, which starts in a few hours, but there's a few events beforehand. There was a few events this morning. Octagon's going to start in an hour. We have Glory Collision 7. I know I'm missing some other big card also here today. Then UFC, then Deep, and then K1 and Inca tomorrow on Sunday as well. Two deep cards later tonight too. But let's get into this, guys. We will be way more interactive on the Octagon stream. We'll be way more interactive on the UFC 310 stream as well. So if I don't get to your guys' comments in this one, just hop on over to Octagon. The link is in the chat. All right, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. My mic stand's falling down right now, actually. That's why I came late. I was adjusting it. All right. We'll have to make do with it like this right now. Let me know if there's any feedback coming in, and I'll adjust it before the next stream. But anyways, all right, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Kennedy Nzechukwu against Łukasz Brzeski. Kennedy Nzechukwu here, 13-5 as a pro, up against the 9-5-1 Polish fighter. Brzeski is 32 years of age, up against the 32-year-old Kennedy Nzechukwu. Kennedy Nzechukwu did win his last fight against Chris Barnett, who tore his groin or something, throwing a big spinning wheel kick. But Kennedy Nzechukwu was looking good early in that fight. Funny enough, coming up from light heavyweight, there was a size difference, him being the bigger and longer guy. Lost a split decision against OSP. He did not look good in that one. Decided to move up to heavyweight, where he's now seemingly, and again, small sample size, but seemingly and should be more the agile fighter. Lost to Justin Jacoby, KO, TKO, beat Devin Clark, whatever, beat Kutalaba. Kutalaba, very hit and miss guy. I don't know. I think Kennedy Nzechukwu is a lot more polished and skilled than that of Łukasz Brzeski, who on the regional scene, all roided up to the gills, looked okay. But really in his UFC, small but UFC career thus far, I'm not really impressed with his performance. 5 KO TKOs, 2 submissions, 2 decisions, 1-4 in the UFC. They beat Walter Walker, kind of a little upset victory there. But other than that, I mean, it wasn't even a great fight. It wasn't even a great fight, even though he got the win. So I am going with Kennedy Nzechukwu. I know it was short notice. Brzeski was actually supposed to fight Talison Teixeira, that tall, lanky Brazilian out of LFA who won on Dana White's Contender Series. But alas, Kennedy Nzechukwu taking this on short notice, and he's still minus 550. I think he's more athletic. Now that Brzeski's off the sauce, I think that Nzechukwu is more athletic, hits hard, better boxing. Brzeski's decent in the clinch. Both slow, but Kennedy at heavyweight should be faster, so I'm picking him to win. All right, let's get to the next one. All right, so we have Clay Guida. Yes, Clay Guida is still fighting, ladies and gentlemen, against Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper, 14-3-1 as a pro against the veteran Clay Guida. 38-24 for the Carpenter Clay Guida, who is the plus 725 underdog in this one. Chase Hooper, a whopping minus 1200. I hate seeing these odds in MMA. I understand. Yes, he's a big favorite for a reason. It's just we've been seeing a lot of these favorites in MMA recently lose. I'm just saying. Clay Guida, 2-3 in his last 5 fights on the 2-fight losing streak. Lost a decision to Joaquim Silva. Lost to Rafa Garcia. Both decisions. Beat Scott Holtzman, split decision. Puelles, I mean, he put himself in that knee bar. Beat Santos, where this was an interesting fight because Santos was pretty old going into that one. I think Santos, that was his last fight before he retired. He was like 38 or something like that. And Santos had Clay Guida hurt early. Clay Guida came back and finished him, I believe, in that one. Yeah, rear naked choke. But 42 years of age, I mean, Still fights at a crazy pace to start the fight. But despite him, having that wrestling background, baby, he seems to put himself in bad positions against jiu-jitsu guys. And what is Chase Hooper but a jiu-jitsu guy who actually has shown that his striking has improved a lot anyways. The win against Borishev was huge. It showed that he can actually face strikers and still come away with the win. Going up against a submission guy like Levitt, he was able to submit him. Fior is whatever. Clay Guida might even be able to beat Fior. And yeah, he lost to Steve Garcia, and he got absolutely destroyed by Steve Garcia. But look what Steve Garcia has been doing to everybody else since, right? So, like, no shame in that. And he's only 25 years of age. Look, Clay Guida has been in some amazing fights, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is the Diego Sanchez fight. It's cool to see that he's still fighting at 42 years of age, that he's still in shape. But, like, Chase Hooper is either going to win this decision, outbox him, or submit him. Like, anyway, it's a possibility. Younger, taller, lankier. Has put on a lot more size. Clay's a beauty, but yeah, he doesn't have the power to KO Chase. So we're going with Chase Hooper in this one. All right, moving up the card. Michael Chiesa against Max Griffin. Look, this card doesn't start off great, but it gets better and better as it marinates, all right? Like, the first three fights are whatever, whatever. Like, the meh appetizer, and you're kind of like, was this really just a good decision to come, dine at this establishment? The appetizers have been meh at best, and then the meal comes, and you're like, oh, damn, this is why we're here, baby. This is why we're here. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the main course. But Michael Chiesa against Max Griffin. Again, two old guys. Funny enough, Max Griffin older than Chiesa, 39 years of age. Chiesa, 37. This one's pretty much a pick'em. I'm going to go with Chiesa. 17-7 as a pro. 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Beat Tony Ferguson. Big whoop. And it's crazy that we're saying that in 2024, but it is what it is. Lost to Kevin Holland. Lost to Sean Brady, lost to Vicente Luque now 3 years ago, and then a year and 4 months ago. All three of these guys are better guys than Max Griffin, who's a win one, lose one type of guy who beats meh opponents and loses to good opponents. And Neil Magny. Okay, so you got a split decision against Jeremiah Wells, who's okay, I guess. No shame in losing to Morales, and no shame going to decision against Morales. I get it. Max Griffin's like one of those guys who's good everywhere, not great anywhere. Chiesa's just as big as him. Chiesa's a way better grappler than him, and Chiesa's more of a submission threat. So I'm going with Michael Chiesa on this one, but Griffin could keep this and take this 3 rounds and maybe win a close decision, but I imagine Chiesa will probably get the submission, or maybe just do just enough in regards to control time to get a decision. Yeah, crafty BJJ, and he's just as strong as Max Griffin. So we're going with Chiesa. Despite him not being super active, he's been active in the last, 12 to 14 months compared to before. Moving up the card, we got Cody Durden against Joshua Venn. By the way, big shout out to everyone in the live chat here. Again, we're not going to be super interactive on this stream, but links in the chat, just scroll up a little bit or just check out the channel. We have an Octagon 64 stream coming up literally in like 45 minutes. We'll be totally interactive on that one, as well as UFC 310 here. And I'll check back in the comments in a little bit once we get a good chunk of this done. Cody Durden, Joshua Venn, ladies and gentlemen. Joshua Venn, 11-2 as a pro, been very active this year, as well as Cody Durden, to be perfectly honest. So we got 2 exciting fighters, 2 active fighters, 2 guys who have taken and dished out a lot of damage in this last 12 years. What a crescendo here at the end of 2024. Joshua Venn, still relatively young, 23 years of age. The Myanmar fighter fights out of Houston, and 4-1 in his last 5. However, the last fight was a close one. Now, I do think the right guy won. I do think Joshua Venn won that fight. But Edgar Chairez, if anything, his stock went up in that one, as it showed he's way more of a brawler than I ever gave him credit for. And he hurt Joshua Venn in various occasions in that one, and Joshua Venn took a lot of damage. Joshua Venn also took a lot of damage and got knocked the fuck out against Charles Johnson as well. Boons, I believe he didn't take too much damage in. Same with Borjas. But these 2 fights, man, just 4 and 2 months ago, what, like, quick turnaround. I mean, this would have been an appropriate turnaround like 4 months after the KO right uppercut by Charles Johnson. Instead, he came back 2 months later, survived that onslaught, and now is going up against a hard-hitting Cody Durden, who just came off a knockdown and then choke against Matt Schnell. Now I know Matt Schnell's a little chinny, but I mean Joshua Van's chin at the end of 2024 might be a little chinny as well. We'll see. I do think Joshua Van, I know, is the better technical boxer. He is, and in the pocket, his body shots are nasty, and it just seemingly Cody Durden's torso is open for body shots. It seems like, you know what I mean. Keeps that high guard up, that brawling, mean mugging high guard as he steps forward. But Cody Durden actually has some decent boxing as well. He's got power. Joshua Van, though, and we're going to say this before every Joshua Van fight, he's just a little undersized for the 125-pound division. And when I say that, I mean, he's the perfect size for 125. Everybody else is bigger, right? And Cody Durden is bigger than him. I believe Cody Durden at one point has fought at 135 as well. I think Cody Durden probably hits harder. This one's going to be a scrap. I imagine somebody's going to go down just due to how many fights each of them have had this year. I mean, Cody Durden's had 3 fights, lost this one to Ulanbekov, took a lot of damage in that one. Was beating Bruno Silva before he got knocked out. Then he had a quick turnaround against Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell actually tagged him a few times as well, right? So it's going to be interesting. I'm going Cody Durden. Again, I think Joshua Van is the more polished fighter, but I think Durden cracks him a few times and finishes him. And maybe we see a rematch down the line when let's be honest, they're both never going to be inactive and actually recover a bit. They're both just going to keep fighting, keep making that money. Cody Durden is a lot older than him, but I don't think his chin is fried by any means. And Joshua Van, just this year anyways, his last 2 fights and just these quick turnarounds, it's starting to worry me a little bit, but young enough where, hey, maybe he's recovered fully. But yeah, going with Cody Durden. And also, by the way, if Cody Durden is losing on the feet, I think he's a better grappler, and he could employ that in his game to maybe win a round if needed. And maybe he can't win this on the feet, so he wins this decision based on using some more tools. Because I think overall he does have more tools than Joshua Van, who's shown he can scramble and shown he can get out of bad situations like we saw against Ashara's fight, but still. Going Cody Durden on this one. I like, and as an underdog too, it is nice. Again, big shout out to the live chat here. We'll be totally interactive on the Octagon and UFC streams later. We're going to fire through these picks and continue on. Good to see Striking Ace, Roman the Faster, Sis, Miani, Cody, good to see you. Oh, that is awesome. That is cool to see. All right. Chris Weidman against Eric Anders. This didn't happen on the last UFC card because Eric Anders was sick. So they rebooked it for this one at a catchweight. Eric Anders, 37. Ya boy, 37 years of age up against Chris Weidman, who is 40. Now, I will say this. Props Chris Weidman for coming back. He's had a couple fights after that nasty leg injury, the infection. I mean, the whole 9 yards. He was out for, 2 years dealing with that. I don't think the documentary is out yet, the ESPN documentary, but I am actually looking forward to watching it. Regardless, I'll give him props for that. Other than that, no respect for eye poking freaking Bruno Silva to seemingly death in his last fight. He beat Bruno Silva, and put it this way, I would give him more props, eye pokes aside, for that win, if not for Bruno Silva's last performance, right? It was horrendous, and Bruno Silva is far from the Bruno Silva who was just like a solid roster fighter in the UFC. In literally like years past, talking as years past, as last year's past, right? Lost to Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares came in, good game plan, kicked the shit out of his legs, and Chris Weidman had a hard time taking Brad Tavares to the ground. Brad Tavares, his whole career has been really good with the takedown, or has had very good takedown defense, has been very good in that area. But this is what I'll say, guys. Like Eric Anders, Brad Tavares, Bruno Silva, all kind of same tier guys. Chris Weidman beats Silva, and maybe eye pokes. If there weren't any eye pokes, Silva might have actually made that fight probably a lot closer. Then we saw what Silva looked like after that, and it wasn't that great. Brad Tavares was able to employ low kicks and beat Weidman. Eric Anders, I think, is closer to the Brad Tavares versus the Bruno Silva, which is why I'm picking ya boy Eric Anders to win this one. Now, this one's a pick'em. Eric Anders is one of those fighters who's, good everywhere, not great anywhere. Like he's working on his grappling. He's been doing I think it's like Fury Pro grappling. I don't know if he's been doing Polaris. Yeah, he's been doing a lot of the Fury Pro grappling. And not necessarily going up against the best guys, but keep staying active. And I listened to an interview of his, and he said basically employing things that he's learning in the gym, in the grappling department, on these grappling tournaments, polishing them up a little bit more in like live reps, and then being able to hopefully use them in the UFC. I don't think Chris Weidman's washed completely. He's proven that in his last 2 fights that he can still fight. He's clearly not the champion that he was in his mid-30s. This one is a pick'em. This one is a coin flip. I'm going to bank on Eryk Anders being a little bit quicker, being able to pressure him a little bit more, not allowing Chris Weidman to take him down with ease, and just basically outpointing him with his jab in and out of the pocket. I don't think he has the biggest reach, but his boxing, like I said, isn't bad. His reach is not that small. I thought he'd have a lot shorter T-Rex arms than he did. But yeah, I just think Eryk Anders does a little bit more to squeeze out a decision in this one. But at the end of the day, it's a coin flip. Or Chris Weidman literally eye gouges Eryk Anders, and we get Michael Bisping 2.0. Or I guess 3.0, because we have Sharp Bullet. But that wasn't due to something that happened in the cage. Or was it? Anyways, not important. Let's move up the card. Randy Brown against Bryan Battle. Our boy Bryan Battle missed weight by 5 freaking pounds. 5 pounds. Well, I guess 4 technically, but he weighed in at 175, ladies and gentlemen. Props to Randy Brown still taking this fight. And funny enough, at the weigh-ins, Randy Brown looked bigger than Bryan Battle. I mean, has a couple inches of height on him. Only has 1 inch of reach, and that's Randy Brown's thing, is picking you apart on the outside. So I think on the feet here, again, weight issues aside, I'm going Bryan Battle. Bryan Battle looked okay at the weigh-ins and was kind of like playful about it, rubbing his belly a little bit, which I'm sure Dana White was not happy about that. And honestly, I'm not very happy about it either. I know he's moved down eventually to 170, but still, this is his first egregious. This ain't no like 2 pound weight miss. 5 pounds, ladies and gentlemen. Like Randy Brown could have just been like, fuck this fight. You know what I mean? But shout out to Randy Brown taking this one. Look, Randy Brown's pretty one-dimensional. He's a very good striker. He's got some takedown defense. I think Bryan Battle is more well-rounded. I think Bryan Battle is stronger. And I think Bryan Battle is as good of a striker. I think Randy Brown's boxing is more technical and his jab's better. But Randy Brown, despite having a good jab, likes to find that snipe shot, right? Whereas Bryan Battle, I think, will land more shots on him and mix it up. Body shots, low kicks. And if this is just a striking affair and this stays on the feet, I think Bryan Battle probably will win due to landing, just as many significant or just as many big shots. Like they'll trade probably like each a few power shots and, test each other's shins a little bit. I don't think Bryan Battle nor Randy Brown will knock each other out. And if anything, I give the power advantage a little bit more to Bryan Battle, especially with his hooks. Having said that, if this goes to the judges' scorecards and it stays on the feet, I think Bryan Battle just lands more significant strikes, and the power shots will probably be even. And like I said, mixing in the low kicks and just kicks as well, I think Battle will at least have more significant and more damaging low kicks. But again, 5 pounds, I don't know if he's like sick or what is going on there, but something's going on, right? This wasn't a seamless, this wasn't an easy, normal fight week. That or he just said, fuck it. I've just been eating too much in Vegas. I don't know. Still the favorite, but just, at plus 170, going up against a guy who missed by 5 pounds, and Randy Brown, a big guy in his own rights. Not a bad underdog. I just think Bryan Battle's a little bit better, and Bryan Battle, let's see if he's actually the legit prospect we think he is. Because if he beats Randy Brown close or even handedly, it's like, okay, that's another box you can check. And it's like, he's actually a legit prospect. Because Randy Brown hasn't beaten the best guys in the world, but he has beat Zaleski, who's, a little bit older, but good win. Knocked out Salikov, who's still looking good. I mean, what a knockout in his last fight. Took Wellington Turman to a decision. Wellington Turman's whatever. Lost to Jack Della Maddalena, no shame in that. Beat Trinaldo, who's a little bit older. But that's the thing, like Randy Brown, he's beaten some names, more like the older guys, but he's a solid, now established roster guy in the UFC. And this is yet another good test for Bryan Battle. Come on, Pooh Bear. I mean, the Butcher. Eating too much honey before camp. Or after camp, I should say. Anyways. Movsar Evloev against Aljamain Sterling. The battle of the grapplers, which means this is probably going to take place on the feet. And that's why I'm picking Evloev to win, because I do think he's just the better striker. In the battle against the two grapplers, I think Evloev will land more strikes, better strikes. I've never liked Sterling striking. It's always very awkward. He kind of like ducks his way in, tries to land like an overhand or like a body shot, and then is a little slow to get out of the pocket because he's always looking for that takedown or body lock to drag you and then maybe even employ the trip, right? It's kind of like he always, almost like capoeira-esque, looking for like momentum after the strikes to maybe grab you and use that momentum to take you to the ground. Even when he doesn't do that, he's still, that's always like seemingly part of what he's thinking about and evident in his movement, whereas Evloev has shown that his striking has come a long way in the Arnold Allen fight. Now, I thought Arnold Allen looked amazing against Evloev and actually matches wrestling, so maybe Sterling actually out-wrestles Evloev. That's certainly a possibility, guys, okay? Certainly a possibility. I'm operating under the assumption that it goes back and forth in the beginning, good scrambles, but for the most part, it's like, okay, this fight has to be decided on the feet because no one's going to be decisive enough on the ground. If anyone does or is decisive on the ground, I would say that I'm leaning towards Sterling, but I truly think this will be more of a Sterling shooting for takedowns or trying to get trips in the clinch. Evloev break, or, not allowing him to get the takedown, maybe getting a takedown, they get back up to the feet. Evloev landing some shots, initiating the striking. Could be totally wrong, and this could be a boring fight, or it could be a very interesting one if it plays out in that scenario. Evloev is undefeated, 18-0, minus 240. So again, plus 200 for Sterling here. Not bad odds for a guy who's already proved, okay, I can fight at 145, beating Calvin Kattar, who's more of a striker, but like Calvin Kattar is no... He's no just pure boxer, despite his striking being good. Like, he has good takedown defense. And Sterling was able to look dominant. Obviously lost to O'Malley, beat Cejudo, who's, I guess, a little bit older. Obviously Dillashaw, being held together by glue. I mean, look, man, he beat Petr Yan employing, his game plan. Petr Yan, Figueiredo had a hard time controlling him. All right? Figueiredo, good jiu-jitsu guy. So Sterling's good, low-key, really good. I understand he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's 35 years of age. He's getting up there. But definitely this weight cut, I think late in this saga, in this final chapter of his career, having less of a weight cut is definitely going to benefit him here. And I'm just interested to see how this one plays out, to be perfectly honest. And it could play out very boring. We could see a fight with a lot of mixed martial arts tools. And I think Evloev wins based on outstriking Sterling at the end of the day. 3 rounds is interesting. All right, moving up. The next one, obviously, Nick Diaz, hope that he's getting the help that he needs. Had to pull out of this one, or the UFC canceled it or whatever. Vicente Luque fighting Themba Gorimbo. Gorimbo, like, insanely confident coming into this one. Almost maybe too confident. I don't know. Vicente Luque, I've liked how confident he's been this week. He sounds like the old Luque, but I cannot pick Vicente Luque to win a fight right now until I see him fight, even show shades of the old Vicente Luque. So I don't care if it's short notice. I don't care if I'm or you're not sold on Gorimbo, because I'm certainly not as like a top guy just yet. I think he's fine, and we'll get into that in a sec. I can't pick Luque to win a fight if he's fighting like the way he fought in his last 2 fights, coming back from his injury. Now, props to him coming back, because that's like serious stuff. And whether it turns out to be a foolish decision long-term or not, like, props to him setting that goal to come back after a crazy injury and still being able to get there and getting a win, no less, against Rafael dos Anjos. Now, it wasn't an exciting fight. It was a wet blanket type of fight. And then the last fight just looked so timid and just, like, basically tapped to strikes. Like, I know he didn't, but you know what I mean, right? It was very much that vibe. It was very much that vibe against Joaquin Buckley, who's good, but I think we still have a lot of questions about Joaquin Buckley if he's the world beater that some people think he is. And like I said, there's a few boxes that need to be checked for him still. But anyways, long and the short of it, Nick Diaz unfit to fight. Again, hope he gets the help that he needs. Themba Gorimbo stepping in. And I mean, a dangerous enough guy for Luque here. I think this is honestly a better matchup than Nick Diaz, especially if Vicente Luque does want to get back into title contention, which I don't think he's going to. I mean, unless he gets back to old form, because he's 33 years of age, but still. Themba Gorimbo is riding momentum, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Beat Nico Price, an old Nico Price, and wasn't able to finish him. So there's that. Quick turnaround. Beat Ramiz, which honestly, that's a good win. Ramiz is good. Pete Rodriguez knocked him out. Pete Rodriguez, whatever. Good, he knocked him out, though. Sato, pretty good win via decision. He's well-rounded. His striking is decent where he could make this a fun scrap on the feet. Look, old Vicente Luque absolutely destroys Gorimbo's the better striker, and it has better jiu-jitsu and better wrestling. I mean, Vicente Luque was an actual contender and threat in his prime just a few years ago. I don't think Gorimbo is as good as, what we've seen Luque to be a few years ago. However, is Luque that? Does he even have shades of that anymore? I don't know. So until I see that, I can't pick him to win. I think Gorimbo's a little bit more dangerous. Even if this goes the distance, I'm banking on Gorimbo, even if he gasses in the 3rd round, to do more damage in the first 2, based on what I've seen from Vicente Luque in his last 2 fights. If Luque even fights half as good as he was a couple years ago, and maybe just employs some wet blanketing Dos Anjos type fighting in one of the rounds when Gorimbo is potentially tired due to taking this on short notice, then okay, let's fucking go. I'm rooting for Luque. Again, I'm not one who's sold on Gorimbo being anything special other than just, maybe a solid roster fighter for the UFC moving forward. But rooting for Luque, picking Gorimbo to win even on short notice. And again, big shout out to live chat. Again, we're not being interactive in this stream, but I see you guys in the chat. I appreciate you all. Garry, I see you too. Amberly, good to see you. Chris Gray, good to see you. Yo, dude, I love me. Good to see you as well. We'll be interactive on the Octagon and UFC stream, guys. I promise. We're just firing through these picks. And speaking of, we have Octagon starting in 10, 20 minutes. So let's continue. Anthony Smith against Dominick Reyes, ladies and gentlemen. Lionheart still fighting, still win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Dominick Reyes 1-4 in his last 5 fights, ladies and gentlemen, but he's back, baby. He is back. A great win against Dustin Jacoby, who's not the easiest guy to knock out, definitely chinnable, but he's been in 3-round fights. Mind you, he's been knocked down in a lot of those fights, but still, he's been in 3-round fights against harder hitters where he's survived the whole fight. And Dominick Reyes showed just how dangerous he still is. Now, is Dominick Reyes still chinny? Absolutely, as Ryan Spann knocked him out with a power jab, ladies and gentlemen. All right, with a power jab. He's the favorite because Anthony Smith just is not dangerous. And over 3 rounds, Dominick Reyes is going to do more. He lost to Dolidze on short notice, man. And I thought Dolidze at one point was good because of the fight he put on against Vittori. That was such a fun fight. He's not. He slows. He gasses when he has a full camp or short notice. It doesn't matter. Awful performance by Anthony Smith. Great performance against Petrino. But then you got Anthony Smith in the press conferences, and I don't know if he's trolling, but he's like, I don't even care about winning. It's bro, why are you here? I get it's a paycheck. You know what I mean? But to win fights, to be an athlete at all, at the highest level, you have to have at least a drop of that Michael Jordan mentality, right? I don't even care about winning. It's well, on that statement alone, because I don't think Smith is trolling, Reyes wins this fight. And obviously, I think Reyes is quicker. I think he's more dangerous. I think he's better everywhere right now at this stage in his career than Smith. And Smith doesn't have the power to knock out Reyes, in my opinion. Props to Smith for the long career at only 36. 37 wins, 20 losses. That is amazing. That is amazing. The amount of fights he has, stays active, works for ESPN, and the UFC likes him, so they're going to keep giving him fights. Kind of like Chiesa. And he's still winning ish, so he's kind of backing it up. I mean, Anthony Smith is going to fight until he hangs it up, which might be soon, or he might just hang around another 2-3 years. Because again, age-wise, he's only 36, but he's got a lot of miles. But he's just slow as fuck, man. And like, for him talking about how good his jiu-jitsu is, I just, other than the Petrino guillotine, have we seen a lot of good jiu-jitsu for Anthony Smith as of late? Reyes is going to keep this on the feet. Reyes is going to land some nasty shots and probably either finish him KO, TKO, or win a decision. All right. Nate the Train Landwehr against Choi. This is when the card really starts picking up, guys. This is going to be an absolute banger. This is going to be an absolute banger. And if Choi rocks Landwehr at any time, Landwehr has more tools. Landwehr is a good wrestler. Landwehr is pretty good at jiu-jitsu, and I think he's just more of a threat everywhere in this fight, whereas Choi obviously has that power and obviously comes out in the first round like a bat out of hell. But I think the longer this fight goes, Nate Landwehr, though he gets knocked down, he's very, very tough. He doesn't get knocked out easily. And Choi used to have like an iron chin, but it has been fading. Now, he hasn't been insanely active. So it has been getting, I guess, better because, you know, in this stretch, it wasn't good. Came back against Kyle Nelson. You know, Kyle Nelson ended up getting, the draw on that one due to Choi getting a point taken away due to a headbutt. It wasn't that egregious. There was a lot of fuckery in that fight, but Choi did look like the better fighter. And I say that, you know, Kyle Nelson, Canadian, love Kyle Nelson, the monster. Great win against Bill Algeo. I know kind of a layup, I guess, but still. He looked good in that one. Nate Landwehr, what a run he's on recently. 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Great win against Jamal Emmers. Knocked him out, dude. That's the thing. Lost a decision to Dan Ige. Beat Lingo, good win. Beat Onama, good win. Beat Ludwig Klein. Like, Landwehr's wins, low-key. Like, again, casual UFC watchers, and I don't mean to be like pretentious or be like, oh, you casuals, but just like straight up casual, I should not even say UFC watchers, just mixed martial arts fans don't understand like how good of a recent run Nate Landwehr has been on, because these aren't like world beater names, but they're really good fighters. I have Nate Landwehr winning this one. I think Choi is dangerous, and Choi does have knockout power to knock guys out who have good chins. But I think as this goes in the second and third round, this is Nate Landwehr's fight to control, especially if he can take those shots from Choi early. This either is going to be a barn burner for all 3 rounds, or it's going to be like a first round crazy, each of them knock each other down, and then Nate Landwehr starts employing some dirty boxing in the clinch, some elbows, taking Choi to the ground, trying to get his back. I'm excited for this one. Going with Nate Landwehr. All right, moving up the card, and this is I'm excited for this only because it's a meme, right? We're going to get some clips. We're going to get some guru videos. We're going to get some other MMA content creator videos. I mean, MMA Twitter is going to go nuts with this fight. We got the battle of the flat earthers. We have the battle of the jiu-jitsu bases. We have Bryce Mitchell against Kron Gracie, who is 1-2 in the UFC and is now on a pay-per-view.
Emotional
I don't get it, bro. I don't get it. Maybe they're just giving Thug Nasty a layup here because they want him to get back into the win column and get his confidence back. Although he looks confident, right? He got brutally knocked out almost a year ago against Josh Emmett. Glad that he took a year off to recover because that was nasty. Freedom! Thug Nasty. A good win against Dan Ige showed that his striking is good, because what is Dan Ige's forte? Striking. I know it's supposed to be wrestling, and he's good with the double blasting, the double legs, but like his boxing is and power is his bread and butter. And Bryce Mitchell looked really good in the striking department and was able to control Dan Ige, threatening on the ground as well. Lost to Ilya Topuria, no shame in that. Beat Barbosa, beat Andre Philly. Some decent wins on the way up. Kron Gracie, sure, had a good win against Alex Caceres. I'll give him that, when he wasn't a triple beat, right? When he wasn't a baby back bitch in there. When he actually was like, okay, I'm going to have to get hit. Like I got hit a couple times in Ryzen when I fought there before getting my submission attempt, right? Cub Swanson humbled him. Now, it went decision, but Cub Swanson beat him up. And then 4 years later, comes back the return of Kron Gracie. Charles Jourdain just butt scooted the whole time. I imagine Bryce Mitchell's going to crack him, TKO him, because every round starts on the feet. or we see a lot of the same as the Charles Jourdain fight where Mitchell clearly wins a decision because Kron Gracie just continues to butt scoot. I hope Bryce Mitchell doesn't try to test his jiu-jitsu against this guy, because if he does, he might lose, especially if he does it for 3 rounds, might get submitted, or Kron Gracie just winning on control time and points. But again, Thug Nasty doesn't have any KO TKOs, but has some boxing. Like, it's not horrible. He's knocked guys down and then gone for submission. Never lost via decision, and again, only 2 losses in his career, and he's had a lot of time to recover. Yeah, he's the big favorite for a reason. Thug Nasty's going to win this one. I don't know why I spent so much time on it. All right, moving up the card. Again, big shout out to everyone in the live chat. We'll be interactive on the Octagon stream and UFC stream later. We're just firing through picks on this one. Let's get to the last 3. Good to see you, Robert. Good to see you, Habo. Good to see you, Mikey P. Thank you guys so much for joining. Like I said, we'll be interactive on the Octagon stream coming up here in like 10, 15 minutes. I know one of the prelims is about to start there. We'll jump into whatever's on when we hop in. Also, there's Glory today as well, guys, and I know Rush Hour is covering that, our boy Jay. Anyways, featured fight here, Ciryl Gane against Alexander Volkov. Volkov 38-10 as a pro. This is the rematch, by the way, between these 2 guys. He's a pretty big underdog here, and I kind of like him as an underdog. I'm not going to lie. 4-1 in his last 5, 38-10. This is unbelievable. He's 36 years of age. Look how many fights. He's got like an Anthony Smith-ass record, except, less losses. 36 years of age, on a great run, 4-fight win streak, beat Sergey Pavlovich. Unbelievable win, right? Pavlovich was like the boogeyman of the heavyweight division, just knocking guys out left, right, and center. I know Gane was a little scared to fight Pavlovich. Volkov goes the distance with him and beats him up. Beat Tai Tuivasa. So did Ciryl Gane, but Tai Tuivasa actually hurt Ciryl Gane. Just saying. Beat Romanov. I mean, who hasn't? Goodbye, Romanov. Glad he's not in the UFC anymore. PFL's probably going to sign him. And beat Rosenstrike via KO TKO, which is huge because Rosenstrike is a kickboxer, right? Last loss was to Tom Aspinall. 24 KO TKOs, 4 submissions, 10 decisions, 12-4 in the UFC, 6-3 in Bellator. It's just crazy how good he was in both promotions. Now, no, he lost to Ciryl Gane unanimous decision back in 2021. I honestly think Swolkov is a different fighter than he was there. I think he's gotten better. Like, it's crazy that heavyweights peak later, but they do. Now, I know a lot of wear and tear, and Volkov is coming off a knee injury, which is the reason why this fight was postponed. Gane is 34, so not that much younger, but has not had, even in the world of kickboxing before his UFC career and his MMA career, doesn't have as much wear and tear, is lighter on the feet. If his takedown defense is sound, I mean, Volkov is going to have to fight this fight on the feet like in their first fight. But if Ciryl Gane just has not worked on his takedown defense at all, there is an opportunity for Volkov to take him to the ground because Volkov actually has decent grappling. But Volkov's striking, I think, has improved a lot more since the last time that they have fought in the last few years. Gane's obviously, like, his kickboxing and almost like karate-esque style in that wide stance. His kicks, solid. Volkov, though, Swolkov, man. No more USADA. He's got those power shots back. Not that they're like faded, but there's just something. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. There's just some sort of, and I don't use this word often. This is more of like the youth's word these days. But there's just some aura to Volkov right now that I don't care who's in front of him. I don't care who's in front of him. I'm like, there's a chance, and there's a big chance here, and I like him at plus 295. If this goes the distance, Gane probably is going to outpoint him unless Volkov takes him to the ground. But I'm going with Swolkov on this one. I'm going to trust that his striking has improved enough where it's pretty even on the feet. Maybe Gane, volume-wise, chews up his leg a little bit. But Volkov still tags him. I mean, the reach is there, obviously. I mean, they each are pretty much the same. And I'm going to bank on him getting some control time in the clinch and getting a takedown or two. So we're going Volkov here, baby. Backed for the title shot. Jones wants to vacate the title. Do it. We'll do Volkov winning this one and then Volkov Aspinall next, baby. Let's go. Because that will be a fun rematch too. And Volkov's just beat all the best guys at the top of the heavyweight division. I should say. I'm like going off this one too quickly. He's beaten the best guys in the heavyweight division. The only guys he's lost to were the 3 top guys as well. And Ciryl Gane, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades, interim champ. He's the interim champ right now, but he's the real champ. And Curtis Blades, who's just like, he will forever be the heavyweight title gatekeeper. And he's beaten everybody else. He's cleaned out the division. And so has Ciryl Gane in fairness. But Volkov's done it in more impressive fashion, in my opinion. All right. Co-main event. A lot of people saying the people's main event. This is a sick fight. I mean, what else is there to say? This is a fucking sick fight, man. 2 undefeated guys just entering their prime. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18-0 as a pro. Garry, 15-0 as a pro. I think these odds are crazy. I really do think this should be more of a pick'em than Rakhmonov being the heavy favorite. Now, Rakhmonov was like a -200, sure. I think this is crazy because I really think each of them have fought the same level of guys in the UFC thus far. And if anything, maybe Garry 1 step above, but not a big step. But that's a little bit of a stretch. I'm not even going to go down that route. They pretty much have faced the same level of competition in the UFC, and this is each their biggest test, no doubt. No doubt. Garry, well-rounded, has shown he can grapple, has shown his striking is good, has shown he does have knockout power, but way more of a tactical fighter than a pressure fighter, that is Rakhmonov. So it's very much a clash of styles. 7 KO TKOs, 1 submission, 7 decisions. 8-0 in the UFC, 7-0 in Cage Warriors. Look, it wasn't a good fight, and I was not happy about it, but he did employ a really good game plan, and he's good at adjusting on the fly in fights. He employed a good game plan against MVP, but MVP did out-grapple him at some points in that fight too. I just have to throw that out there. Split decision against Jeff Neal, whereas Rakhmonov obviously finished Jeff Neal, but Jeff Neal rocked Rakhmonov in that fight too. So each of them faced some adversity against Jeff Neal. Each of them have a win over Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez, Kanan Song. I just think like Kanan Song, Daniel Rodriguez, Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and then Michael Venom Page. Good opponents for Garry. Pretty much as good as the run of Shavkat Rakhmonov, who has 8 KO TKOs, 10 submissions, only finishes, which is wild, and probably why he's that heavy of a favorite. Another M1 Global guy, by the way, because I believe it's him, Evloev, and Nate Landwehr, all M1 Global champs on this card. M1 Global, well represented on this card. Wonderboy Thompson, I mean, solid win. Obviously, Jeff Neal finished him. Magny, Carlson Harris, Alex Oliveira, but towards the end of his career. Again, like slight edge to Garry, but just because I think he had like fought one more better guy. But same level of competition overall. I'm going with Shavkat Rakhmonov, but at plus 310, I mean, these are good odds for a guy who's very well-rounded in Garry. I just think Rakhmonov is a little bit more dangerous. I think he hits a little bit harder, and I think he's really going to have to make Garry think on the fly and really make Garry react a lot more than he has in a lot of his fights, where Garry's able to fight off the back foot, able to dictate the pace on the feet in and out of the pocket, and or he employ the wrestling and basically just control where the fight is going. Whereas Rakhmonov here is going to be in his face all 3 rounds. Now, Garry has proven to have good cardio. Rakhmonov, we just haven't really seen it yet. So if this does go the distance, we've seen Garry still have gas left in the tank in the 3rd round. But I am going Rakhmonov on this one. I do think, again, from a betting perspective, like, how can you not drop a little something on this? Like, plus 310 for Garry is solid odds. Do I have anything else on him here? Yeah, he's good at employing his game plan and adjusting as well as Shavkat just will take a shot, not even look phased, and then hit you like twice as hard. And both of them have really good technique. I just think Ian Garry's a little bit more polished. But yeah, clash of styles, and this is a fucking sick fight, man. This is a fucking sick fight. All right, main event of the evening. Again, big shout out to everyone in the live chat here. Again, I know we weren't interactive during this stream, but we will be interactive on the Octagon stream that's coming up in 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to switch over to that right after this. And we will be interactive on the UFC stream as well. What's up, Funkmaster? What's up, Metallica fan? Good to see you. King James, good to see you guys as well. Thank you so much for joining. All right, I got to say here, boys and girls, I'm rooting for Kai Asakura, and I have nothing against Alexandre Pantoja. I'm not going to be upset if and probably when he wins, because I like Pantoja. He's cleaned out the division, and he showed he's good everywhere. He showed he's got good power. He showed he's got good striking. He showed his jiu-jitsu's elite. He showed his wrestling is good. Like, he is a champ. He's a champ. He's in the prime of his career. Took him a long time to get there, and he's fought the best guys in the world. In the world. And he continues to be the king at flyweight. So much so that, because Mokaev was canned essentially and let go, there was nobody else in the division for him to fight that they had to bring over a 2-time bantamweight champ who's fought at flyweight before, has made a fairly easy cut to flyweight in Kai Asakura. Now, if Mokaev was still in the UFC, Kai Asakura would have come in and fought somebody else for, I think, the Anderson Silva style, beating Chris Lieben, because Chris Lieben was the top contender at that time, to get the middleweight title shot against Rich Franklin. It would have been the same. Same thing with Michael Chandler, right? Coming in, getting the shot against, or the fight against Hooker, and then getting the fight for the title against Charles Oliveira. But there was nobody else at flyweight. They're going to give Kai Asakura a chance. Kai Asakura 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 21-4 as a pro. Beat Juan Archuleta, knocked him out, knee to the body in Kai Asakura fashion. Now, I will say Juan Archuleta was sick that weekend and had a lot of weight issues. He was literally cutting weight while the event was still going on. But Kai Asakura still made easy work of him. Beat Montoya, easy, another knee to the body. Montoya, solid, tough guy, hard guy to finish. Lost to Ogi Kubo, which I will say, he lost a decision to Ogi Kubo, and Ogi Kubo getting a little older, but Ogi Kubo is still out-grappling and out-controlling some of the top prospects in Ryzen still. And guys who have really good grappling, I would say, like, Pantoja, if he's going to beat Ogi Kubo, would have to do it on the feet, because on the ground, I would say Ogi Kubo probably gives Pantoja a run for his money just wrestling as well. Takizawa has gone on, since losing to Kai Asakura, has gone on a little bit of a downward trajectory, but had a lot of momentum going into that fight. He's just a dangerous fighter. That's the thing. He's just a dangerous fighter. Pantoja, way better grappler, way better submission artist, way more dangerous, even just in the clinch. But Kai Asakura has the power and has underrated grappling, has been working with some really good wrestling coaches in the last 2 years as well. So his wrestling and just grappling and just defense to keep this fight keep fights on the feet has come a long way. I think in the cage will actually benefit him a lot more than on the ropes, because it's harder to defend takedowns up against the cage on the ropes and in the corner of a ring versus it is on the cage. And he actually trains in a cage at his gym at Japanese Top Team as well. So again, underrated, but I still think Pantoja is going to control him on the ground, which is why I have Pantoja winning via submission or decision, just based on control time. I think if Kai Asakura can keep this on the feet, he probably will do more damage. Now, Pantoja, underrated striking. Go watch the Moreno fight again. And I think this fight might play out a little bit like that Moreno fight. However, I do think Pantoja controls Asakura more than he did Moreno into this one. But Kai Asakura has power. He's moving down a weight class, and he had power for 135. A lot of his finishes, though, were grounded kicks, right? Soccer kicks, knees to grounded opponents, but he hits like a fucking Mack truck for a small guy. And despite him, being more on the flashy side, right? Being more on the flashy side, knowing how to sell a fight, translator or not, I'll say that. He is tough. Like, how he got into fighting is his brother challenged him to a street fight. And his brother, who is a former Ryzen champ as well, tried to beat the fuck out of him and Asakura held his own, right? Like his origin story may not be out of the favelas in Brazil, but it's pretty badass, straight out of a martial arts movie. Let's be perfectly honest. I do think if this stays on the feet, it's going to be an absolute scrap because Pantoja can swing and bang. Pantoja has nasty hooks as well. Pantoja on a hell of a run, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Trains with one of the best guys in Ryzen right now, Kyoji Horiguchi, who is gone 1-1 with Asakura, but knows how to beat him. So there's that as well. 8 KO TKOs, 10 submissions, 10 decisions, 12-3 in the UFC, 6-1 in Shuto, Brazil. You know, beat the newcomer in Steve Urseg, beat Royval, beat Moreno, beat Perez, beat Royval, beat Kopp, who Kopp's gone 1-1 with Asakura as well. Lost to Asakura, but Asakura was fucking solid, and lost to Figueiredo and Oshima. It was like, man. I'm picking Pantoja. Love Pantoja, but rooting for Asakura. Would love to see some new blood in this division. And I'm just a Ryzen stan, so it'd be cool to see Ryzen well represented. And honestly, guys, the reason the UFC have all this Ryzen footage that they're allowed to show, that Ryzen shared with them, is because Ryzen really is, you know, betting on Asakura to win as well. Because if Asakura wins, that just elevates Ryzen, right? And UFC showing their product with their guy who they've molded and now is a UFC champ. So this is actually a gamble for Ryzen just to give all this footage to the UFC. Now, UFC maybe is paying for it a little bit, but still. Anyways, guys, those are my picks for this card. We're going to move to the Octagon stream here in a moment, but lock of the card, Chase Hooper. Degenerate and safe parlay. I'm just going to say this right now, preface it. They're a little fucked up. They're a little fucked up here today, okay? My degenerate parlay, Clay Guida, Gracie, and Smith. Safe parlay, Pantoja, Evloev, Rakhmonov, which honestly isn't even that safe. All right, we're going to move to the Octagon stream here, guys. I want to share the link in the chat. Octagon has already started. I'm sure like the first fight is actually well underway, but we're going to jump in there. It is pretty comfy. All right, Octagon stream next here, guys. A link in the chat. Join us there and let me know if you guys have any suggestions for poll questions for that stream as well. I'll be on in like 5 minutes. I'm going to grab another coffee. I'm going to adjust this mic because the mic stand just fell over. And then we'll be back live. So give me 5 minutes, back on the other side. Let me know your picks in the comments here, and we'll see you for Octagon UFC. And then we're going balls deep. Time for some Octagon. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Making their walk to the cage. You got time. Okay. Well, I'll miss a little bit of the first fight. I got to make another coffee, but back soon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a few minutes for a little Octagon, and we'll keep tabs on Glory as well. Peace.